and then pause.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Alfred University Bergren Forum. My name is John DeAngelo and I'm a professor of chemistry and coordinator for the spring 2024 season of the Bergren Forum. Today is Thursday, February 1st, 2024. And for those of you who are attending the forum online here in Western New York, it is a kind of gray and overcast and somewhat chilly day. But here inside Nevins Theater of the Powell Campus Center, it is a little bit less cold and somewhat cozy. Before starting, we have a few announcements. First, today's forum will be given, or next Thursday's forum, rather, will be given by Alfred University student Leo Bonacio. Leo's talk will be on the preservation of indigenous culture and language. There are some other events this week to announce. Namely, today is the deadline for a study abroad priority application for both the summer and fall term programs. And also later today at 4:30 in the Institute for Electronic Arts, a lecture will be given by artist in residence Chris Fritton. Today's forum will be given by Likin Simon Romero, Associate Professor of Mathematics here at Alfred University, and the title of the talk is Beyond Monopoly, What Can We Learn from Modern Board Games? Take it away, Likin.
Is this working? All right. Thank you very much for John to inviting me and for all of you to coming here and for all of you that are in Zoom. I will be talking about board games, and let me just check that. Let me tell you a little bit about myself. Usually when I teach a class, I ask everybody to introduce themselves. So I'm going to do that, but one of the things I ask them to do is to tell me something that defines them. So, well, that's me, right? My education. Okay, forgive me about there was a problem with the font. So the font that I was using, it's like a very fancy font, so fancy that the computer here didn't have it. So it's all caps, right? So you are going to see some kind of like capital letters which should not be capital letters and lowercase letters when they should not be there. So I am PhD in mathematics, and I am an associate professor, chair of the Division of Mathematics and Computer Science, coordinator of the AU Common Ground program. So you can see me in one of those positions here in campus. My age is 29 years old. You will say, well, why you are asking your age? Because I am going to 29. Did I say 29? Yeah, it's like sleep. 49. It's just because I'm going to introduce you some board games, and I'm going to tell, I mean, there is a topic that says age, so I do. My notion of origin is Mexico. Something that defines me is I am a board game enthusiast. You may say, board game enthusiast? Yes. Board game enthusiast is a way to refer to a person that has too many board games without making them feel bad about this. And that's exactly what I do. I have a lot of board games. I gave the link to my wife so she can attest to that. One of the first things yesterday I was, so I commute from Rochester. So yesterday, no, last time on the Bergren Forum, after all the school principals were done, John sent something like, "Oh, this is such a good Bergren Forum. Everything after this is downhill from here, right?" And I was like, "Geez, thank you, John." Anyway, so don't expect something better than last week. So let me just tell you a little about the pictures. All the pictures over here are going to be public domain. And some of them, the pictures about, in particular about the board games, are from BoardGameGeek.com. That is like an online resource, an online database about different board games. So, Homo ludens. In his book Homo ludens, for example, that should have impact capital, published in 1938, the Dutch historian Johan Huizinga suggests that play is a necessary but not sufficient condition to generate culture. And more than I think about that phrase, I say, well, I mean, it absolutely makes sense, as well as television, as well as any other kind of form of entertainment. However, I think that you can go a little bit deeper, like games, in particular board games, can be a reflection of society. Well, TV is a reflection of society. So the first board game that I'm going to talk about is Chutes and Ladders, but in Mexico, we call it Serpientes y Escaleras. And the thing that happens is just people just like roll the dice and you just go over here. And then if you land in a ladder, you go up. If you have like a snake, if you are in the tail of a snake, you go down, right? So this kind of like game was first started as a kind of like a learning tool to learn how to be a good person, I guess. Or let me give you an example, and some of these are fairly sexist. So let me just say, for example, you are in 96. Your objective is to go to 100. So in here, if you land in 96, if you throw a ball at a person, what happens? You go to jail. So it's kind of like, what do you learn from here? Please don't throw balls at people. Or if you are a good nurse and you take care of this, apparently a man, what happens? That man is going to bring you flowers and you're going to be very happy about it. Fairly sexist, right? But they kind of feel like a reflection of the time when this board game was and a lot of people in Mexico play those board games. This is a good one. You are in 83. You are almost there, right? But what are you doing here? Ah, man, you are just like procrastinating. So what happens? Ooh, I mean, I guess some of our students feel this like that. Ooh, what's going to happen? Man, you be a beggar. And then you have to start at 3, no, at 8. So you went from 83 to 8 for procrastinating. So Callum, what do you learn about this? Don't procrastinate. Oh, come on. So, and the last one is like, look, if you put hard work and put your bricks over here, what do you get? You get your goal, that is, I guess, building your house. So I guess house ownership is like the ultimate goal for this particular game. So, but what I can tell you over here is this is kind of like these games are kind of like a reflection of society on what are like, I mean, what is good and what is bad about that. Well, that's all fun and games, but I'm not going to talk about that. I'm going to try to go a little bit deeper, and I'm going to try to tell you, I'm going to divide this into 4 sections. The first section is what I learned from other board games and how they changed my way of learning. Let me just tell you the first board game that is kind of important for me is the first board game when I realized that I learned something that I didn't know before. The game's called Britannia. So Britannia this is the edition that actually I played and I still have. The number of players is from 3 to 5 players, but they lie. You have to play with 4 players. Otherwise, it's not as fun. The playing time, I want you to notice that it takes between 3 hours and more than that. And so obviously, I kind of like started playing this board game when I was in college. I had more time in college, I guess. I rarely play it right now because who has that time? Age 12 above. Designer is Louis Pulsiper. I'm just going to stop saying the names of the designers, but this is the name of the designer. And the publisher, there have been so many publishers. So I remember I was in college and one of my friends had this board game and said, hey, we should play this board game. And I was like, oh, yeah, okay, let's do it. But it's really long. And then so we started at 10 and we ended at 5 the next day. So let me just tell you a little bit about this game. Britannia is an historical and strategic board game. The board game is the map of the British Isles. I want you to see the British Isles, and I want you to see over here, have some familiar faces. Oh, there are Saxons over here. Unfortunately, they didn't get the memo that we Saxons were purple. No, these pieces are red, and unfortunately, and this is the period of time in which these Saxons are going to go and invade some of the, well, no, they're not invading, they're just reinforcing that. You see, there are already some Saxons over here. The players take control of different tribes and recreating the millennia-long struggle for the control of England, Scotland, and Wales. One of the things that is kind of interesting is that this game begins with the Roman invasion on 43 AD and ends in the Norman invasion. And what I got about this game is basically what is the thing that happened between those millennia. So now I know, from the beginning, I know that the Romans came and conquered everything up to kind of Scotland, and they couldn't go to Scotland and maybe some of the parts of Wales. So if you see over here, there are a little bit of mountains. And actually, they separate Wales, I don't know if you noticed, by a yellow line. And part of it is because, there was one struggle to get over here. And the same thing in Scotland, but the picture gets cut. Anyways, so let me tell you more about Britannia. Every turn is a time interval of different lengths. And every time there are going to be new tribes coming in and going out, and different colors have different tribes. So, for example, over here, these are the red players, and the red player, well, I put the red players because they were the Saxons, but also have some Norsemen, and they were with some Brigantes over here. And they are distributed along the time. One of the interesting things is that you have a certain timeline, and you have certain tribes coming to each other and going back and forth. And I want you to see over here, this game is kind of brilliant in the sense that encourages you to kind of like follow more or less the same decisions that these tribes lead. So if you go to a particular place where the Saxons were not there, well, you're not going to get any points. You get points for getting in those particular places. But moreover, you get more points if for some reason you decide, I don't know, to get rid of King Arthur, or I don't know, maybe at the end, get rid of some leaders that maybe historically the Saxons didn't get rid of, right? So incentivize you to at least do more or less in the same region, be in the same region that your tribe was at that time, but also tell you, but if you can do what these guys didn't do, you are going to get more points. And that is Britannia. Other games like Britannia, we have Hispania, that is the same as Britannia, but in Spain. All of these ones I own because I'm a board game enthusiast. This one, you can only get it on French. So I put up practice my French. So this is the same thing, but now notice more or less the same time range, but now it's in Spain. So there is a little bit of a different stuff. We have Italia, same thing in Italy. We have chariot lords. These are like in the Middle East, and this is more like in biblical times. So that's very interesting because there have been so many different groups of people kind of like occupying different parts of the Middle East. And finally, Maharaja. Maharaja is the same thing, but in India, and that's also very, very cool. And this one spans even more. It gets from the beginning, from Alexander the Great until the time where all the European, the Dutch and I think that the English came on the coasts and then start setting in. All of these ones that have the same problem, they are fairly lengthy. So if you have time, I would recommend you to use them. So the reason why I put these games, what did I do? All right, so the reasons why I put these games is because this is the first game that actually helped me learn about the history of Great Britain or the British Isles from the Romans to the Normans. By the way, I used to play blue. I didn't know that I was going to be a Saxon, so I played blue. So I played the Angles that are kind of like, we negotiated with the Saxons to get rid of the Romano-British, that they were purple. These colors. All right, so let me tell you the second one. This is another very important part. Very important, but it's not, maybe it's not, I didn't put it here more for how you can learn, but what it meant to me, this particular board game. This particular board game is called Picket. And the number of players are 2 to 4 players. The playing time is 20 minutes. H8 Laws, the designer, and the publisher is Discovery Toys. So let me tell you a little bit about Pick It. Pick It is a geometrical puzzle game. So each player is dealt 5 cards face down, so nobody else can see them. And the card, the one extra card is taken and gives you the configuration of the sticks that you have over here. So, and then the thing that you can do in your turn, you can make a pattern of the sticks matching the pattern on one of your cards by moving one of the sticks and putting it in a different position. And if that's the case, you can put that card down. When you get rid of the cards, you win the game. If you cannot find a particular, if you cannot find a particular move that makes the configuration of one of the things that you have in your hand, then you draw a card. Yeah. All right. So I want you to tell me, do you see anything here that let's play Pick It? Which one do you can match? Natalie, you got it, that one, right? And you can match it in the 2 ways. What will be the way that you thought that you can match it? No, you don't want to tell it? All right. I guess, what about if I take the, let me just think. Oh, I did prepare that, but okay. Come on, Natalie, help me here. You grab this stick and put it right here, right? That creates that like little Y. The important part, the interesting part about this is that you can create your configuration, but also can be like a reflection, right? This is important because when I got introduced this was when I was a TA for a teaching mathematics seminar in a rural setting in a Facultad de Ciencias in UNAM, Mexico. So this is the Facultad de Ciencias, and our classroom was right over here. This is, I took calculus right here. All right, so anyway, so this is the Facultad de Ciencias in Mexico. The final project for the class, and I was a TA, so I shouldn't have done that project, but it was helping the community teachers in CONAFE, of CONAFE, whatever CONAFE is, I will tell you what it is in just a moment, for a more engaging way to teach mathematics. And one of the things that Pick It can teach you is some geometrical concept about symmetry, because you can create your configuration, right? But sometimes the configuration could be the other way around, like the reflection of that, but that's also valid. So in order to win the game, you have to, if your geometrical sense is not very developed, you can always kind of like put your card over here and check if it matches in that way. Anyways, so I was introduced to this because I got to meet the people that they train the community teachers. So CONAFE is a branch of the public education department in charge to provide teachers in places where there are no schools, where schools are not available. So in this case, so there are certain parts in Mexico in which they don't have built a school, or they don't have enough people, or so they have a teacher that goes and teaches everything from 1st grade to 6th grade. And the idea here is, well, I mean, so the thing that we were trying to do is we try to train the people that train these community teachers, and the students were supposed to meet with these community teachers and give them some particular stuff. So that was in the past. Then I came here to the United States to study topology with the direction of Dr. Sam B. Nadler. Here's Sam B. Nadler and his wife, Elsa. This is probably in Toledo, Ohio, but I went to West Virginia University. He wrote a book called Hyperspaces of Sets. I literally came to the person that wrote the book of what I am interested in. So that's why I ended up in Morgantown, West Virginia. As I was taking a graduate class in graph theory, Dr. Nadler came to me and said to me, like, hey, you're taking graph theory, right? Oh, read this paper. I'm trying to extend the notion of hyperspaces to graphs. Graphs is just, you can think about like a network configuration. It's the study of network configurations. Let me just put it like that. So naively, after reading his paper, I expressed that his extension was uninteresting to me. Given that I was still looking for a PhD thesis subject, his answer should be obvious for all professors in the audience. So if you think that there is something better, do it. So I did it. And the thing that I did is this: if you have a graph, you have two connected subgraphs here that are two connected sub-configurations. And guess what? What was my idea for checking whether these two things are close enough? It was pick it. It was these two things are one away, one unit of distance away, because you can remove let me just check it. You can remove this stick over here and put it over there. And that's my entire PhD dissertation based on Pickett. So what I learned over here is like you can get inspiration or get to write your PhD dissertation out of the most unexpected places, in this case, Pickett. All right, so how much time do I have? So now I'm going to move on to learning math using modern board games and how they changed my class. So now I'm going to tell you the experiences that I have had using board games to teach a class. So the first one, well, first of all, let me tell you a little bit about buzzword. The buzzword is gamification. This is a buzzword. Actually, I don't think that it's a buzzword anymore, but it was a buzzword like 10 years ago. It's like everybody was trying to gamify their classes. And what does that mean? I think that there is crappy gamification and there is like meaningful gamification. The crappy gamification is I'm teaching my class and I say, I don't know, it's like giving rewards, like the person that answers the most questions gets like a little sticker with, or a trophy, right? And Colum answers all the questions. I'm going to pick on Colum. And then I give him a sticker and he feels like, all right. Yay, because I mean, and everything is inspired on these things in video games. You have your Xbox, and every time that you do something, they say, bling, bling, you completed this thing, and not a lot of people have completed that. And you feel better about yourself, I guess. I have never felt good about myself by completing those kind of things. But anyway, so this is kind of one of the gamifications or trying to make games with the thing like that. What I think that describes what I call a successful gamification is this picture. If it moves. This is a good gamification, right? Because what does this do? Well, first of all, I have trash in my hand. I see that. What I try to do, I try to put it under the hoop. So this is kind of a way to appeal that homo ludens thing, right? Like that need of having some kind of game over here to do something that you are supposed to do, that is throw this thing to the trash. At the end, that's the end objective. But the gamification part is how you can make that process fun. So let me just tell you, and this is all my opinion. I mean, we have some education people here, so this is just my amateur kind of like the theory here. So I think that our system of education has a user experience problem. So let me tell you how user experience is defined according to Google. The overall experience of a person using a product such as a website or a computer application, especially in terms of how easy or pleasing it is to use. So now if we go and ask our students how easy or pleasing is to use their classes, they will say, you talk too much, or this is an example of something that it doesn't have a user experience. I don't know if you have tried to schedule something on the YMCA. It's the worst. I have negative user experience of that. Our classes are constantly competing for our students' attention and interest. And some of these things have people developing in the user experience thing, right? I mean, I mean, video games are all about that. I mean, I want you to have a good user experience, so you play my video game. And so the lack of interest of our students can be in part due, I'm assuming here that some students have a lack of interest in our classes. This is just an assumption. I'm not saying that that's the case or not. Can we improve the user experience in our classes? Maybe that's the thing. Maybe we can improve the user experience in our classes. Maybe you can get something. Or maybe they will be more interested. They will say, yes, I'm going to go to my Calc 3 class. They don't. User interface is a cost of entry. So in particular, I'm going to talk, I mean, this is something that I thought about in mathematics, but I think in general, it's often overlooked how barren the presentation of concepts are. Sometimes the presentation is just somebody writing the definition on the board or presenting you like a slide, just like me right now with the board. So for example, these are all the definitions that in my graph theory class, the students have to learn. Keep on going, keep on going, keep on going. All right, that's just for 1 week. And these are different, these are different things that they need to learn, right? It's a lot of terminology, and if I just read this thing, it will be the most boring thing ever. So one of the problems of teaching graph theory to non-mathematics majors, for example, is the amount of terminology, concepts, and methodology that students need to assimilate in a short period of time. So what was my idea? Well, what about if so people use mathematics to get better understanding of board games. So what about if we use board games to get a better understanding in mathematics or history or physics or chemistry? So my solution, so I decided, and one of the things is like, this is one of the things that's super cool about Alfred is like, you get this freedom of the freedom of teaching, I mean, as long as you're teaching, obviously, but of teaching different ways in an outside of the ordinary kind of way. So the thing that I was inclined to do an inquiry-based learning, because that's my style, that's my jam. I created a set of notes of a variety of graph theory books, and I put it in the notes that are right here. Actually, those are the notes. And those are the books that I use. So the class structure once a week. Oh, by the way, here are some kind of like legendary students taking this class. I don't know. So for example, chemistry people can see Melissa over here, Julie's over here, James is over here. So we have a lot of legendary students there, but they were the first one that took this class. And one class a week, students play a board game. I will tell you what board games. There are more people over here, some other legendary students. This is the first time that I taught this class. This is the second time. So for example, here you can see Erin Jurkowski, math and English major. Very interesting, Colin. Oops, excuse me. Kelsey's over here. So good times. And this over here. I'm sorry, we care about our students, so we were very happy. Alice is over here. She was in the soccer. So she was taking this class because she needed one more math class for her minor. And notice that what she's doing over here is she's doing a full-fledged proof of something that I think that I feel very proud about it, because it's one of the things that engineers don't like is proofs. So in the 3 remaining classes, the student works in teams solving the problems from the notes. So what are the board games that I use? So all these board games related, and I'm going to go back what graph theory is. Graph theory is just the study of these networks. So I use Ticket to Ride. This is a very famous game. A lot of you recognize it from my first slide. The number of players 2 to 5, playing time 30 minutes, age 8+, designer Alan Moon, publisher Days of Wonder. Ticket to Ride is a network building game. So if you see over here, the board is what I call a graph. So it's a series of networks. And cities are connected by routes of different lengths. And each player receives these cards and say, oh, if you connect Chicago to Santa Fe by the end of the game, you receive 9 points. And you connect these by collecting sets of these cards and then just claiming routes. And Montreal to Atlanta, you get 9 points. However, if you don't connect them, you get these points negative. Oh boy. The next one is called Elfen Roads, that is designed by the same person that designed Ticket to Ride. And no surprise, about 2 to 6, playing time 45 to 90 minutes, 13 plus, the same designer, and Rio Grande Games is the publisher. And Elfen Roads is a road building game. So now, okay, another graph, but I mean, I'm using this for a graph theory class. So in here you have different elven cities, right? They are connected by a road, but this is kind of like the interesting part. Is every road you have a boot. You are a boot, literally. And the boot, the thing that does, it goes from place to place, but every turn you put a token that tells you the mode of transportation that you are going to use. So in this case, the important part is you have to plan and create your route in such a way that you visit all the most amount of cities in the board. So this is kind of similar to what we call the traveling salesman problem, but let me move on. Scotland Yard and New Year's Chase, this is the other one. I lied to my, so I'm teaching this class this semester, and I lied to my students. I said that the only thing that you're going to play is Ticket to Ride. No, they are going to play other stuff. So if you are listening from the internet, I'm sorry, I lied to you. 3 fire players, 45 minutes, age 10 abroad. These are all these designers. This is Ravensburger and Milton Bradley. This board game, and I remember I played this board game when I was a kid. I should have put it over there. But I was going to put it right here. So again, a network. And the thing that you have over here is one player is going to be Mr. X. This is the spy that Scotland Yard has to actually catch. And the other players are playing the detectives. And the thing that they are going to do, they are going to move in this board, but they are going to move using different forms of transportation. I mean, the thing doesn't make any sense. I don't see like detectives grabbing a taxi and saying, hey, follow that taxi, and then running out of tickets for taxis and then getting stuck in somewhere else. But the thing is that you move from one place to another one by using each one. The yellows are taxis, the blues are buses, but the buses, the thing that does is they connect blue stations with blue stations, so you move a little bit faster, and the underground is the dotted red lines. And locations in the board are joined by different transportation. Mr. X and the detectives have these tickets, and they start putting the tickets, and they're trying to figure out where Mr. X is. Mr. X reveals the movement is secret, but in some particular terms, it reveals themselves, and then you can see whether you're close or not. But anyways, so graph theory again. So the thing that we do over here is is the study of these networks where every node is called a vertex and every connection is called an edge. And then that's what we study in graph theory. Although I'm a topologist, but anyways. Again, I apologize. This font, it was supposed to be all caps. So it seems that apparently I was typing first in all caps and then I moved to non-caps. So, okay, educating through modern board games and how to change the way we teach. The other thing that I have is the other way that I have used this is in my honor seminar. So here is Alfred University honors. And well, this is a shameless act of self-promotion. I have proposed this, and that's basically the description in the honor seminar. And I may or may not propose it next semester. So if you are welcome to check if you are interested in this seminar. So the thing that the idea is using board games as a pedagogical tool. I know that these board games, although they're not like Britannia, right? The problem with these board games is you're restricted to a very particular, they cannot be too long like Britannia. I mean, if I could, I will put Britannia as the main board game that you can learn stuff from. But each class will be centered about subject, history, economics, natural science, social justice, morality, ethics, and all, amongst others. The student will play a board game, a game in class, whose theme matches the corresponding subject. So they every seminar, they just go play a board game and then fill a survey that say, well, I mean, how do you like this game? Or how do you think that you can use this on a classroom setting? As the and as a final project, the thing that they had to give me is kind of like all the materials for me to just print the materials, go to a particular teacher and say, hey, do you want to learn about economics? So, or do you want to have a class for your children or young adults about economics? Look, here's the board game, and here is like these materials that you can use for better understanding of that particular topic. I'm going to start with the first one. This is a new addition that I did just last fall. I put over here. This is called Bergren. You see the bear and the bull, yeah. It's a stock market. Well, first of all, what number of players? 3 to 6. Playing time 60 minutes. Age 12 plus. You see that I'm using age in a different way. This is not the age of the board game. This is the age that the people can play. The designer is Ryan Corney, and the publisher is boardgametables.com. So let me tell you a little bit about Bear Raid. Bear Raid is a stock trading game. What I like about this Bear Raid game is it taught me something about shorting stocks. So buying stocks is pretty easy. You just buy them and you just have them. You selling is the same thing. You just sell the shares that you have. But shorting stocks is a tiny little bit different. The shorting stocks, if you don't know, is kind of like a loan. That's the best way that I can put it. Is like I grabbed this particular company and I said, look, give me the money of the current share price of that particular company, and then I will pay it back later on the price at that particular time. So what people do is short that particular company and then hope that that company goes to the ground so they can pay less. So that was a very interesting thing because in January of 2022, a short squeeze of stock in American video game retailer GameStop and other securities took place. So the thing that they were doing is these people were like shorting GameStop, but then somebody went in the forums, in Reddit forums, and say, well, let's buy shares from GameStop, and that's going to make the value of the shares. I mean, they started getting the value of the shares a little bit more and more and more. So the people that were shorting will end up paying more at the future price of the shares, and the cost financial consequences for certain hedge funds and large losses for short sellers, right? The people that were shorting this stuff. Funny enough, one of the things I want you to see over here, this is how you keep track of your shares. And funny enough, one of the companies is not displayed over here. I think that they call it GameStonk. And it's one of the, I mean, this is, so this is Gazillion instead of Google, and this is Edison instead of Tesla. So they make a little bit fun of the companies that we all know. The other thing that you have over here that is kind of interesting is you have information of the forecast card. So this is a forecast of this particular Gazillion company, and they have kind of the interesting thing. So AI sells stock, reasons unknown, and here's the AI kind of like, I don't know. And the thing that is going to happen is because of this situation, this particular company is going to tend to go down a little bit. But you can manipulate this. So it depends where this cube lands. But I will have to explain you the game, but that's kind of like the idea. You can manipulate this. Sometimes you can gain some value, the particular thing, or if it goes really, really high, you are going to lose some value on that particular thing. Let me go to the next one. How much time is there? Oh, yeah. Genotype, Mendelian genetics game. So this is Genotype. 1 to 5 players, 45 to 90 minutes, 4 playing plus. These are the designers. The publisher is Genius Games. So Genotype is a worker placement game. You are placing these are not work starters, these little, how do you call it? Throat? Like little shovels. And the idea is you are putting them in different places because you are going to collect these cards. So what are these cards? These cards are pea plants. And the pea plants are going to have different traits. The peas, are they round or they are odd shape? And they have these letters over here, and the capital letter R is going to be round, and lowercase r means odd shape. Are the pea pods green or yellow? Capital letter G is green and lowercase g is yellow. And the thing that you have over here, you have two lowercase g's. So in pea plants, the green is the dominant gene. So in order to get a yellow pea pod, you need to have two recessive yellow genes. And the same thing, the other thing is tall and short. The flower, I mean, they cover over here because you have to get these genes to kind of complete these particular features. The other one, tall and short. So capital T is tall, lowercase t is short. And how do you complete these things? You have Punnett squares. So here you have the Punnett squares over here, and you are grabbing these distributions over here. So you roll the dice. Each one of these dice give you a particular configuration. Could be the two dominant and recessive, or just two recessives. And depending on what you grab one of these ones and you put it in your particular pea plant and you complete this stuff. And again, what you can learn about this is not only Punnett squares, but also how genetics got started by an Augustinian friar named George Mendel. Founding Fathers. Founding Fathers is 3 to 5, playing time 90 minutes, age 13 plus, and these are the designers and publishers. Jolly, Roger game. Founding Fathers is an area majority card-driven game. In each round, an article of the Constitution. Fun fact, the articles on the Constitution are actual articles of the Constitution. The fun part here is you vote for have the actual article of the Constitution or the opposite side of the article of the Constitution. So you can have a weird United States Constitution at the end, depending on what happens in the game. This is, for example, the Federalist side of this Constitution. One of the things that you can see over here is that different articles of the Constitution were pushed by different factions: Federalist, anti-Federalist, big state, small state. And they have right here. So players, you have a card. I mean, you are one of the founding fathers, and you are playing influence of other founding fathers. So you have a set of cards, and they have the name, they have a delegation. So that's what they, I mean, more or less, they are going to differentiate the vote of that particular state. And this one, for example, likes small state, right? Here's big state over here. And they have a little snippet. That's something that the board games do. They have a little bit like fun facts about that particular thing, and you can find it in other games like Wingspan and all that kind of stuff. But for example, this one moved to strike the phrase national government from the Constitution, replacing it with the United States as the official designation for the new government. So it has a special power that is related allegedly with the United States. And players may use this card on the special abilities, use the card to vote for or against an issue under consideration, or try to claim tokens of each one of the 4 types of issues. One of the things that we like to talk about it is like, once you are done playing this game, one of the sad things, or well, I mean, it was what it was at that time, is realizing that all these people, these our Constitution, were all old white dudes. That's it. That's what they were, and that's what they kind of like push for those kind of things. But anyways, but the important part is they had different kind of like factions, different kind of ideas of how government should be run in again. the font more. So that's more or less, I give you just a sample of some of the games that they play. Usually I bring 3 and they just rotate, and then I change the next time for another 3. So those were the games for the honors class. So let me just tell you more modern board games and how you can find your own fun and maybe learn something too. Let me start to the first one. And I told John that I was going to give him a treat, and the treat is Compounded. Compounded is better gaming through chemistry, according to the box. The number of players 2 to 5. The playing is 30 to 90 minutes. The designer is Darrell Lauder, and publisher is Dice Hate Me Games, one of my favorite names of publishers. So what is Compounded? Compounded is a game about building chemical compounds through careful management of elements. So you have these cards, and you have the configuration, the molecular configuration, and you have these things that, for example, this one is calcium, this one is nitrogen, and then you just have to create these configurations. This is hydrogen, and this is carbon. And the thing that you do is you just start selecting this stuff, and you are creating these compounds. I thought that John will geek out when he says, "Oh, he's talking about hydroxoic acid," and I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm talking about that. Look, cool." So this is a real compound. So some compounds are flammable, that they have like some like fun kind of like effect in the game. And some compounds will grow more volatile over time, take long to gather necessary components. Look at these guys, acetone, come on, like all these things. And look at nitroglycerin, it covers more stuff, but you need some nitrogens over here. And by the way, it has also a chemical component, like a chemical formula, right? This is kind of a little bit of the description. Take too long to gather the necessary elements for the compounds, and a lot of hard work will be soon scattered across the lab. I appreciate the dramatic effect of this particular thing. And the other fun fact is the scoring chart is actually the periodic table. So if you have 25 points, you are right here in chromium. Is that chromium? All right. And here comes the big one. And with this one, I'm going to end. I want to talk about, hey, this game was released last year. And this game was like a big deal in the board game. I mean, some people have it as the game of the year. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about this game. Hegemony, lead your class to victory. Okay, so the number of players 2 to 4. The playing time is 90 to 180. So it doesn't get minutes. It doesn't get to that point of Britannia. So it doesn't last 300 minutes, but it's a little bit longer. 14 plus, these are designers, and the publisher is Hegemonic Project Games. You have to check on this, but I think that these two are two economists that make this game. Let me tell you a little bit about hegemony. Well, first of all, the game suggests some kind of class warfare. That is kind of like an interesting thing for a board game to talk about. But it's an asymmetric political economic card-driven board game that puts players in the role of one of the socioeconomic groups in a fictional state. The working class, the middle class, the capitalist class, and the state itself. So this is an asymmetric board game. So it's kind of like a bear to teach, because everybody has different rules. The state has a particular way that they have to do and behave and all that kind of stuff. Okay, the working class control the workers, the capitalist class control the companies, and the middle class is a little bit of workers, a little bit of companies. So if you see over here, we have a farm, we have a factory, we have a university. Oh, here we are, look at that. You are here and I am here, and we produce 6 education. That I think that's a good thing. While the farm produces only 4 food. And the factory produces 6 as technology. So anyways, finally, the state is trying to provide benefits and subsidies when needed, but also trying to maintain a steady income. So you don't want to go, if you're the government, you're trying to support all these classes, but at the same time, you have to generate money some way, somehow, right? So you will have to tax them, right? But when you tax all these classes, well, these classes are not going to be happy. While the players have their own separate goals, they are limited to a series of policies. And if you see over here of the policies, we have a fiscal policy, whatever that means. I mean, all these things over here, but that's just way that the game proceeds. It looks very complicated. What I have heard is not complicated once you get it going, once you learn the game. The labor market, taxation, what is this? Healthcare and benefits, education. Over here, I don't know, but you also deals with the migration. Sometimes you can bring stuff from outside of the government, but that means that you have to spend some money. So you enact these policies, and and you all vote for these policies, and the government is trying to figure out how to keep all the things together, and the capitalist doesn't want to do a lot of healthcare to the working class, because the working class, well, that will cost money, right? And the working class is like, come on, dude, I'm working here, give me a little bit of help. Anyways, so if you're interested in all these board games, I will suggest you to stop by another shameless act of self-promotion, a Mad and CS Club board game nights. And here is the logo for the Mad and CS Club. February 16 is the first board game night. Friday, March 15, again, I'm sorry about the all caps. And Friday, April 12th is the last board game night of this semester. With that, I would just like to say thank you.
Thank you, Likin, for a great talk. There's time for maybe one or two questions. Any?
First, I'm a marketing strategist, and I think I learned more about strategy from playing Go and poker than all my degrees together. So, yeah. I'm from Brazil. Some of my friends are designers, and you mentioned culture. I think it's interesting the journey that I saw. They created a game in Brazil, and then they went to a competition, international competition, and they changed the game to Waka Waka Island with African influences and things like that. They won the award in France. And after the award, they published the game and they had to change the game again. And now it's called Vigneta. And I think it's from the Norse gods. So you mentioned culture. I think it's interesting how it started with a Latino, then African, and became white to be successful. I think it's interesting in terms of commonalities and differences that we see in that. Can you comment a little about what you saw in that regard?
Oh yeah, so that's the thing. So that in the board game community, they classify some board games into either thematic board games or what they call more like mechanic-based board games. That they call it Euro games, and that's another talk to talk about where they are originated from, because it's very interesting. But to the point is that sometimes if you have a solidly mechanic game, right, like a game with a fun mechanic that you can exploit, maybe the only thing that they do is they attach the theme just as a marketing tool, just like what do we think that people will buy if I put these games. What I want to also focus to, and in the relation to culture, is that one will have to be careful, because some of these games, they attach the theme over the top. Sometimes they make historical mistakes. Like, let me give you an example. There is a game called Sulking the Mayan Calendar. It's a very sound, fun, interesting game that has a circular board that kind of like rotates. As it rotates, it has other circular boards. Here it's like a gear mechanism, so it rotates and the workers go in different directions and all that kind of stuff. It's a pretty interesting game, but because they needed a circular thing, they put the Aztec calendar, and they call it the Mayan calendar, right? And that's not accurate. This calendar was created way before the Mayans were in decline. So sometimes what you learn about these board games. If you are not careful, you are learning something that is not correct. But yeah, it's getting to that particular thing. And I wonder if Waka Waka was kind of like the same thing. It's like uncareful representation of a particular kind of. So maybe it was not like a specific kind of like real, like historical or like a geographical place. Yeah, all right.
My question is this: why haven't physical board games been replaced by virtual, but online board games? Because obviously they're much more expensive to produce, and I'm surprised that they haven't been replaced. Why not?
Oh, I have the answer. I was thinking about putting it there, but the presentation was long as it is, so I decided not to put it. My interpretation is there are two things. I like to think, and I think that we all that the board games is a way that you can socialize, right? Like you can build community, you can interact with people in a physical place. I was thinking that there is usually the comparison. Well, why video games and not board games? The thing is, seems that the virtual interaction is kind of like, I like to call it decaffeinated socialization, right? Is you socialize, but there is something missing there. And I think that one of the things that is missing is that human element, that interaction element. And that's why we were kind of really craving to come back to our classrooms, right? Because we needed that social interaction. Plus, board games have something that the video games doesn't have, that is this having an experience through a tactile kind of like item. You are sharing these particular tactile items. And I think that, I'm not an expert, but I would like to think that this tactile kind of like thing appeals to our very basic instinct when we were babies. And the first thing that we did when we wanted to learn about something is grab it, touch it, throw it, chew it. But please don't chew your board game pieces. But yeah, I think that's the reason why they have survived. And I think that they will still be here. Like, no. Yeah.
Having friendships and stay together, keep talking.
Yeah, but that's why I like the caffeinated analogies, like drinking your decaf, right? I mean, you're drinking coffee, but it's not the same, right? It doesn't have the same intensity.
Yeah. So last semester, me and Dr. D'Angelo were working on attempting to build some sort of card game-esque thing for organic chemistry. And a problem that we kept running into was accessibility. And Dr. D'Angelo is a very smart man, so he was able to sort of, to a degree, make the game accessible to people with limited access to knowledge about the concept broadly. From what I'm gathering from this talk, the ability to learn from games is something that should be applied to education broadly. You're teaching a class on it. I imagine that the connection is there. However, for subjects where there is a high barrier to entry, do you think that there is a limitation to like the complexity of subjects that can be taught through this style? And if not, how would you suggest overcoming those, or are there examples of ways you've seen games overcome those barriers to entry well?
Yeah, well, absolutely. I think that there is an absolute limitation. The game Britannia, right? It covers millennia, and we are just moving these pieces left, right, and for sure, we're not taking into account some other factors that were over there. So although it's a broad stroke, right, of learning about the subject, as you are trying to get precise, you are losing two things. You are losing people that could be willing to play the board game, right? And you are also losing, or you can make them really, really long. So yeah, I think that absolutely is kind of like it is like that barrier. But I think that I encourage you to take that as a challenge. It's not an overcomable not overcomable barrier. It's something that you could actually, aspire to. Like, for example, this hegemony game is something that I try to describe the best I can, and I try to make it like interesting for you to actually kind of learn it. But at the end, if you are not into these things, or if the designer didn't realize that they wanted to explain these particular topics, that game will not have been even designed. So I said, keep the good work, and that's part of like brilliant design. A brilliant design is a design that that has a particular focus. I want to explain this, and then try to figure out how you can simplify have like a tunnel vision, right? Simplify everything else that is around it and just focus on that particular thing. So, for example, that game Compounded is a very simple game. It has a lot of luck, actually, but it seems that one of the things that the Compounded wanted to do is, look, the only thing that I want you to do is like to have a particular compound, see what is the configuration, and have fun with it. And that regard, then it becomes a little bit more accessible.
Well, thank you, everybody, for coming, and please join me again in thanking Likin for continuing the great hot start, if nothing else, to make fun of myself. Thank you, Likin.